question for you. Is there a rumor and innuendo going on around this one said guy I referenced earlier, Mick Foley, about a last match?
You know, it's wild that you bring that up because we did our last Foley's pod and we did it in the basement here of my home in Huntsville. And, you know, he had told us before that he was sort of looking to wind it down. And I think maybe what really accelerated that is he did that Most Wanted Treasures show for WWE, and they had him zigzagging all over the country. He actually told me that year that he did that, he traveled more that year than he did when he was WWE champion 25 years ago. There was more travel involved in just that show and his regular appearances, whether it was a handful of one-man shows or the autographs and things. So he's got with the family and they've decided we're going to start winding it down. And he wants to become a more private person when he turns 60 years old and just sort of come off the road and chill out and age gracefully as he can after all he's put his body through over the years. And as we're coming to a close, because, you know, we talked about off air a last match after he saw Ric Flair's last match, but it was sort of a, I don't think I could ever do that sort of thing. But he's also talked about how he had struggled with his weight and he needed some sort of motivation. And he talked about the last time he lost the weight, the motivation was Vince McMahon in his ear saying that he wanted him to. And when Mick said he would and said a number of pounds he would drop, Vince said something like, I'm going to hold you to that. So Mick is a goal-oriented guy.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the podcast, he said, I'm thinking about knowing again that he wants to sort of end his wrestling career. Not so many live shows, no more one-man shows, no more convention appearances. That's not to say he wouldn't do something here or there, but really just be dad, be Mick, occasionally be Santa Claus, but get off the road in this crazy breakneck pace he's been on for decades. He wants to do that at 60. So he sort of alluded to at the end of the show, thinking about doing a last match for my 60th birthday. And of course my ears perked up. Huh?
I can only imagine.
And we had a lot of fun talking about it on the show. He even said his dream opponent, because I said, listen, have you sort of gotten down the road as far as who a dream opponent for that might be? And he said Moxley or Cardona. So he's at least got a couple of different options in mind, which made me think, well, he's really thinking about this. His motivation is to lose 100 pounds. And he says, hey, if he can wrap his head around that and use that motivation to drop the weight, it would be a nice way to cap off his career. And you know what I did? I immediately went to work and started saying, okay, I'm not going to shoehorn myself in here as the promoter, but I did do this before. So I know some things that probably need to be put in place right now, should he decide to do that. So yeah, if Mick does it, man, how special would that be? Match, the last death match, Foley's last match. I mean, there's a lot of,
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, so many things came to mind. And I'm sure you've already talked about all this, but you know, when you did the roast of Bruce, can you imagine a roast of Mick, a convention around it? His career touched so many promotions, Japan, Texas, Tennessee, the obvious. You know, a lot of people forget about his WCW run and kind of in a lot of ways, you know, and you know the story better than me, but isn't that how JR kind of pitched him to Vince?
Yes.
JR saw him on WCW and that kind of stuff. And just
JR and Cornette were big advocates to bring him in.
Okay.
To WCW. And then JR was pushing hard for him in the WWF. And as the story goes, Vince agreed, but said, I'm only going to hire him so you know what it feels like to get your heart broke, assuming Mick was not going to make it. And of course, if you know Mick, man, he's a goal checker. I mean, he's a box checker. He's a goal chaser. He's going to make it happen. And so I'm pulling for him. I hope he can drop these LBs.
I just saw on Twitter this weekend doing cardio, a Brian Tracy little reel short, something, maybe he's on Instagram, but it just kind of talked about the 7 steps to every goal.
Oh yes, I saw the same one.
I mean, but in every kind of program, I don't care who it is, Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, I mean, we could go on and on and on. One of them is always in there is make it public, make it aware, write it down. Him saying that, I'm going to say the universe is already in motion, not
Yeah.
just Conrad, but the universe is already in motion. And that is going to be something really, really special. When you know, I've got a day job, we'll call it AEW. When I saw the numbers immediately come in for Sting that were way, way above anything else, it was like a great feeling because you look at Sting's career and it's special. And look, what the people are saying, well, I thought it was already sold out. Well, you got to understand booking of buildings and scaling and production and squeezing in and everything that goes with that. I think we'll keep adding seats. I can't say how many, but very, very few. But I mean, we're going to squeeze as many people. It's legitimately, if you ask me, it's been sold out.
Oh, yeah. When we're talking 44 tickets, I mean, come on, that's sold out.
Well, and that's what we're squeezing them in, which is great. But man, that note you just said right there, Conrad, the Clash in '88 had I'm guessing 5,000 sold.
About 6,000.
Wow. And now look at this. This is the week anniversary just of '88 when Andre beat Hogan. 33 million people watch that. It's just the 80s and 90s footprint is amazing. And
but I want to again, I don't mean to cut you off, but people talk about that first Clash of the Champions like it's the standard bearer, like it's the gold standard. Like, man, that's why we're back.
Was that the first Clash?
That was the first Clash. And check this out. The first Clash, I think, is the first time Tony Schiavone and JR did commentary together. And it's also the first title shot that Sting got and was in a main event against Ric Flair. A lot of history was made that night. And we look back and we romanticize that stuff. And we talk about the good old days, but we're moving way more tickets for this one right now.
Yeah, my point being, was that first commercial free? Was that a commercial free on TBS?
No, I think they did have some commercials. I might be wrong on that.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, can't kill a memory, as Dutch Mantel says. You just can't. Fascinating.
I for one am looking forward to talking about Sting. But one more note about Mick Foley. You mentioned, hey, we could do roast of Mick Foley, but I almost wonder, do you remember what Mick Foley's highest rated segment ever was?
Oh, I love to talk. And you know what? Because it is such a hot topic, and I was there, and I remember backstage, there was folks that were not happy that it went way, way long and it kept going and it's too much talking. It's funny you brought that up, Conrad, because I can't tell you how many times at TNA when people would really get angry with me, and I say that in a working business environment, they would really be upset that I wasn't more upset, so to speak, that this guy went too long and this guy went too long and this guy went too long. And, everybody, the stage manager and maybe, I don't know, the cameraman and I'm not telling them to wrap it up. And I'm like, no. If it's a good story and it's engaging and the people in the arena are engaged and watching it and it's enthralling, stick with it. It's okay if we don't have, if you cut 3 minutes of a match or 4 minutes of a match. You've always got next Wednesday or next Friday or Saturday or Monday or Saturday morning, whatever it is, you've always got that. But Mick Foley's This Is Your Life segment with The Rock, I believe, is the highest rated segment in Raw history.
So why would we not, instead of calling it the roast of Mick Foley, This Is Your Life?
Oh, come on now.
Wouldn't that be fun? I love you just hit me with your Lance Russell. Listen,
No,
it's good.
my Lance Russell. No,
Well, you said, "Oh, come on now," but I mean that just
get
makes
Eddie Marlin out here. No, that's anyway. County, think about the endless possibilities.
And I'm just saying, hypothetically, if it did wind up being Cardona, what you think he's got any marketing and merch ideas? I'm just wondering, maybe.
Well, talking about last match, I've kind of been in the role that Cardona may be asked to, and I can tell you this much: he can't fill Double J shoes. I'm not lobbying for that death match. Don't get me wrong. That I'll stick with Chainsaw Massacre death match, but no, I'm kidding. Yeah, Cardona. It's wow.
And by the way, we're all fantasy booking. I want to be clear because I know people are going to quote what we just said. We don't know any of this is happening. Mick threw out a hypothetical. My man wants some motivation to drop some LBs.
I wish him to do it.
I think we both wish he would, but it's, I could also see Colette, Mrs. Foley.
There you go.
Like, no, we're not doing that.
That's another.
And who could blame her?
For sure.
Yes.
Or the kids.
Yes.
I love Dewey. Dewey may just say, "Hey, Dad."
Maybe really? Not.
I mean, he could, but hey, this is your life. I mean, think about the just go through it. I mean, there's somebody from Texas. There's got to be somebody from Tennessee. There's somebody from ECW, WCW, WWF.
And he's a beloved figure, one of the most beloved men in wrestling. I mean, just like people came out of the woodwork for Richard, they'd come out of the woodwork for Mick. Come on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.